Have you ever been compared to a fairy, or you've been told that your facial features have a pixie-like quality to them? Do you find as though you have facial features that are on the dainty side and even a little bit angular? You may have Gamine essence in accordance to John Kitchener's system. Now, what if you have a dark aesthetic with this essence? Do a deep dive today talking about how to exude a dark aesthetic when you have Gamine essence. Now, I will have to admit this is probably going to be effortless because we have an endless amount of inspiration when it comes to dark aesthetics, especially since a lot of our Gamine essence examples in mainstream media tend to already be ones that are examples of dark aesthetics. Think Winona, Ryder, Christina Ricci, and so on and so forth. I've technically already done a deep dive into the dark Gamine essence, so consider this a sequel, an add-on with even more different interpretations of how you can go about a dark aesthetic if you have Gamine in your essence blend. When I was younger, I felt as though what I wanted up here did not convey in my style. I felt like what I was wearing actually did not feel like a dark aesthetic. I would try to wear certain garments and I would get comments from people like, you kind of look like a waiter. And like, no offense to waiters, but it's not exactly a comment you want to be told. I thought of the Dark Muse series. One, I was tired of constantly having to look to celebrities, influencers, or always having to be all like, oh, I'm trying to go for this person's style. Because celebrities, influencers, these are people that you don't know. They may disappoint you. You cannot stand by their beliefs and values. Versus if you take inspiration from a vampire, a witch, a siren, a haunted doll, or a fairy, these are ethereal entities that you can use as muses and take inspiration from that do effortlessly exude a dark aesthetic. If you try to aim to dress like a vampire, you're gonna have a darker style. And if you try to aim to dress like a fairy, you're gonna have a cheeky yet alternative type of look to you. And that's what the series is meant to be about. Please keep in mind, this is not literal interpretations of a vampire or a witch. These are meant to be words that put into concepts is hard to conceptualize sometimes, and I want this series to encourage you to think more creatively and not think too literally. At the end of the day, good style is good storytelling, and that's what this Dark Muse series is meant to evoke. Again, if you are new to the idea of John Kitchener's essence system and you are unfamiliar with the idea of how everyone has a different essence blend within your facial features and essentially the aura that you give off, please watch my previous video referring to the dark Gamines, but I am going to do a quick recap. So what is Gamine essence? In the literal definition term of a Gamine, it is a young woman with a mischievous, boyish charm. Now, this is not what we're quite literally referring to. We are talking about the Kitchener system. According to, or reworded by Gabriella Ruda, in the Kitchener system, the Gamines are referred to as playfully dramatic with a yang essence. This is a slight variation from Kibi, who puts Gamines more in the combo of yin and yang spectrum. And to the right, I have some examples of those who have some Gamine in their facial essence blend. If you are new to archetype systems such as John Kitchener's essence system or David Kibi body types system or the Dark Muse system by me, there is a difference between the yin and yang in which John Kitchener and David Kibi refers to the yin and yang, and it's not the traditional terms in which they took from, essentially from Taoist principles. So personally, I actually don't like calling these features yin and yang. Instead, I like to call it what they actually were meant to describe. Yin is meant to describe softer features and yang is meant to describe more angular features. So Gamine essence, all it is features that have a bit of angularity to it in a dainty way. Versus if this is new to you and you're completely lost, Angular features that are not dainty would be considered dramatic. Think Angelica Houston versus Winona Ryder, who has angular features but in a dainty way, whether it's in the nose, the lips, or the overall feel. So when it comes to the Dark Muse system and Gamines, I have heard some people say that when it comes to my Dark Muse system, it makes more sense for Gamines to dress more so like fairy, just because they go hand in hand. However, when it comes to the Dark Muse system, I did not want it to be a 1-to-1 ratio with the Essence system. The essences are what you are. These are features that you have. The Dark Muses are what you aim to dress like. And you can mix and match, have fun with it. You can be a witch one season, a siren another. It is up to you. It is just meant to be a form of inspiration. Now, what does that look like though on a Gamine face? What do these 5 muses look like? Winona Ryder is essentially the poster child when it comes to the traditional Gamine features on someone who actually has a dark aesthetic throughout the years, whether it was her career from the 90s up until now. She still is known as like the face of darker aesthetics when it comes to Hollywood. So just a few examples what different Dark Muse styling can look like on a Gamine. So for vampire on someone like Winona Ryder, it could be literally vampy makeup, dark, saturated, smoky looks with a maximal look in the dress, whether it's the beading. I love how 1920s details look on Gamines, especially Winona Ryder. And this is like a fun other interpretation to go about a vampiric look that has that luxurious, highly textured look. Now, when it comes to witch, it's going to be a bit more natural, a bit more organic. So think of this like poofy fur coat that is shown on her in this Marc Jacobs ad. It's a one interpretation of going about a witch with a Gamine essence. Now, Siren is subtly sultry. It is long silhouettes, very mermaid-like. So a lot of the dresses that she wore on red carpet looks kind of exude a siren look. Haunted Doll are poofs and nostalgic details that have an unsettling look about them. It's very period drama-esque, so the dresses that she wore in Bram Stoker's Dracula, albeit being a vampiric movie, the dresses she wore give off Haunted Doll. And fairy is the cheeky, colorful, short layered pieces. So this typical 90s baby doll dress would give off a fairy look. Let's dive even deeper into the Dark Muses, because when it comes to dressing like these muses, there are so many ways to go about it. There is not just one way to dress like a vampire or one way to dress like a witch. I do have these key terminologies that link to each one, like vampiric style is maximalist and luxuriousness. And there's reasons why I have these key words attached to them. To dress like a vampire, you exude this feeling of an old being that has collected riches. To dress like a witch, you will dress in these natural, deity-inspired outfits. But in the end, it is up to you, and it is about a look and feel. And I encourage you to not be so literal with these definitions and go off of that feeling and storytelling. Now, when it comes to vampire with Gamine essence, some of the styles that I recommend is looking into sharp lines and patterns. So Jenna Ortega definitely has some Gamine in her essence. Arguably, she also has some ingenue. But she is a great example of someone who wears sharp, tailored garments that could be associated with vampiric details. I really love this pinstripe blazer mixed in with the pinstripe tights. It is this maximal detail, and it almost has this modern vampiric take. Now, if you want something that is a bit more period drama, vampiric style, Blackwood Castle will never fail you with these types of dresses. And even though I can see some people saying these types of dresses would look more appropriate on a dramatic, I argue that when it comes to dressing dark for Gamine essence, you need to step out of the box and think about other details, because you are not just one essence. You tend to have a blend. So I feel like Blackwood Castle dresses can look good even if you have a little Gamine in your essence blend. Christina Ricci is another who may have Gamine essence in her essence blend, and this dress is a great example of a highly textured garment that does have a vampiric feel to it. I also would recommend looking to Gothic architecture for inspiration. Gothic architecture is one of the most angular of the architecture movements, and of course it has a dark aesthetic. I also would go for very angular, dramatic bags and accessories, just like this coffin bag from Backstitch Bruja and Lively Ghost collaboration. So something different that I'm going to be doing that I haven't done in my other videos is I included different manga inspiration, just because when it comes to the Gamine essence, a lot of the times what is recommended for those with a Gamine essence blend is fun details, and I feel like what better way to get inspiration for that than from manga or comics. I feel like there is an artistry and there's like fun exaggerated details that is done in manga or even anime that I feel like you could take inspiration from. I personally do love taking inspiration from different manga, whether it is the patterns that they use, the different flow, and it makes you think outside the box of what we see in stores and maybe how we can style it in a way that's a little cartoony. Sometimes these exaggerated cartoon-like type of styles do work with Gamines. So for Vampire, I recommended Vampire Hunter D just because I feel like the way that the drawings are done in that book is just so intricate. It exudes that luxurious elements that I recommend when it comes to vampiric style. Now, when it comes to witch, I recommend Apothecary Diaries. I feel like there is a lot of traditional wear in this manga, but I also feel like there is a lot of flowy garments, a lot of billowy sleeves, and I feel like that is at its heart what can feel quite witch. Witch at its core feels like a free spirit. It is soft silhouettes, organic shapes. It could be knitted garments because knitted garments is where you can achieve like the volume but has a natural look and feel to it. I also feel like the Olsen twins have always exuded somewhat of a dark aesthetic, whether it was their bohemian era of the early 2000s or their more simple garments of the row today. I feel like they have always exuded that organic free flow shape in terms of clothing. And when it comes to Gamines, whether it's in your facial essence blend or if it's your kibi body type, it's actually not recommended to wear these large garments or anything that's oversized that may overwhelm you. But if you're going for a witch aesthetic, it is okay to be overwhelmed. You are meant to step outside the box when it comes to these darker and alternative aesthetics. Also look to garments that have folds, waves, anything that feels flowy, maybe robes. And at the end of the day, you want to give off an enigmatic look and feel. These are ethereal beings, and that is what you want to exude. And don't forget to take inspiration from deities, nature, whether it's in your bags or fruit-shaped, nature-shaped accessories. When it comes to the Dark Muse, the Siren, at its core, you are aiming to be this being that is subtly sultry. Sirens lure in their prey with song, and they live in the dark depths of the ocean, and I always envision long, sleek silhouettes. I think of the harsh waves that create sea glass into this super smooth thing, and that's why I always envision like smooth textures. I also think of silky satins that mimic the look of the ocean. Even high shine fabrics, whether it is vegan leather or real leather, I feel like those with the high sheen also mimic watery like textures. When it comes to the Siren and the Gamine, you still want to aim for these long silhouettes, because on a Gamine essence or a Gamine kibi body type, these long silhouettes look even more exaggerated, and there's something very ethereal about it. So I say embrace it. I would also recommend looking to Clamp's Holic. It looks like it's spelled triple X Holic. This is my favorite manga, and I feel like the silhouettes on both the men and women give off a siren look and feel. Rose McGowan has shown many siren-like silhouettes, such as this long silky white slip that she wears. I also think the colors that she wears can be quite fairy. I think Zoe Kravitz definitely has Gamine essence, but when it comes to the Siren Dark Muse, her role in Catwoman really exude that siren look and feel. Another way to get inspiration for a dark siren look, if you have Gamine essence, is looking to old Hollywood, specifically Bette Davis's era, because you have these long formal gowns on these Gamine facial features and they work well. I feel like there's something hauntingly beautiful about this photo and old Hollywood exuding that feeling. And you don't have to wear literally long dresses or long skirts to have this siren look and feel. You can create that illusion like what Sophie Thatcher has here, where she has this light blue dress that kind of goes into the cream tights and it creates this, moves your eye from up to down, and it creates that long silhouette in an illusion. And don't forget to think of oceanic details, whether it's this bearcat jewelry squid necklace or literally pearlescent details in your makeup or wearing actual pearls. When it comes to haunted doll, I almost immediately think of the content creator who is one of my favorites, is Mina Lay. I find that when she was dressing more vintage, and she definitely has Gamine in her essence blend, but when she was dressing more vintage, she gave off the haunted doll aesthetic. I don't know if she was purposely going for an alternative style, but I definitely think she fits somewhere in the umbrella of dark aesthetics, even just a little bit. But when it comes to the haunted doll with Gamine essence, at its core, you need to think of things that are doll-like in inspiration, nostalgic and unsettling. When I was thinking of the haunted doll in the Dark Muses, this is the muse that is cute but creepy, takes inspiration from Lolita styles or anything that is a Victorian doll-like detail. Think poofs, laces, billowy details, juxtapose the soft and angular details. There is something going to be soft and feminine about this. So my friend Dior's Morning Dollhouse has these beautiful dolls that she makes, but she also has some lace chokers that she makes I feel like would fit this aesthetic perfectly. FKA Twigs showcases witch style sometimes, but some of her more dramatic pieces actually give off a haunted doll look. Mia Goth almost always gives off a haunted doll aesthetic, but I definitely chose this image just because I feel like this was interesting to have the angular accessories, that the leather shoulder pieces that she has mixed in with this typical haunted doll dress. This is where you can mix in the hard angular details with the soft. And Helena Bonham Carter is a classic haunted doll aesthetic muse. She also has a bit of fairy in a lot of her styles, and she most definitely has Gamine in her essence. And one of the quintessential haunted doll inspirations I would recommend is the manga Godchild. It takes place in the Victorian era, and there are so many details on both the men and women that you can take inspiration from. I have tried so hard to separate the essences with the Dark Muses. I wanted them to be standalone, but the main thing at the end of the day that I want to convey is that the Dark Muses, you could be whatever you want, whereas the essences are just what you are. And I cannot deny, if you have Gamine essence, the dark fairy aesthetic may just look natural on you, because what is often recommended for Gamines or those with Gamine faces is often what I recommend for fairy. You don't want to shy away from this. You are embracing something that is a part of your personal style. And when it comes to the dark fairy muse, you are probably drawn to this dark muse because it is a part of your personality. Just like traditional fairies are depicted in folklore and stories, they are cheeky, they are mischievous. I also think of the colorful details that you naturally find in nature or these twisted fairy tales. When it comes to fairy and Gamine, think of short, abrupt lines in the garments and silhouettes. Play with pattern and color just as Betsy Johnson of the 90s or Vivienne Westwood would. Embrace the mischievous prints, be bold and dramatic, whether it's in the accessories or the makeup. I think DIY elements is also how you're going to achieve this fairy mischievous look. Think of knitted garments that you made yourself or ripped up pieces that you ripped yourself. It's a little ragged, but in a fun and alternative way. Play with short and long silhouettes. So think of things that traditionally don't go well together, and yet they do. The manga that I recommend for this is Nana. Actually, when I was curating the Dark Muses, I thought specifically of Nana Osaki and Vivienne Westwood when it came to fairy. You have this mix of plaids and leopard print, and in the end, it embraces that feeling of the fairy, which is having fun. I also recommend in terms of accessories, I found this one recently called Heart and Serpent, where you have these little bugs embedded into the silver jewelry, and I think this captures the spirit of the dark fairy. It is having fun, little unexpected details, and makes people even question you a little bit. If you watched this whole video, thank you so much. I almost didn't record this video because I've been really tired lately. So I really hope you enjoy this, and I hope you enjoy the continuation of this series. And until next time, bye.